In this video, we'll be taking a look at 8 NBA matchups, and I'll break them all down with free winning picks so you can bet smarter and win bigger. But first, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you get our picks the second they drop, because when the lines move, the early birds cash in. And if you want the full Winning Sport Picks experience, head over to wspicks.com and check out our VIP packages, or grab a free consultation with one of our professional sports consultants for the sharpest edge you'll find anywhere. That's where the real plays live. We are your bookmaker's worst nightmare. These are the games we're hammering, the ones the books can't afford you to bet. This is Winning Sport Picks. The free picks are about to drop, and they're coming in hot. Washington versus Indiana opens with Washington catching 9 and Indiana laying 8.5. And this number suggests Indiana is expected to control the flow, but not necessarily blow the doors off. Washington usually benefits when games stay structured and possessions are limited, which keeps large spreads in play longer than the market expects. With the total sitting around 234.5, scoring should be steady but not frantic, which favors the underdog hanging around. I like Washington plus 9, and I like the game to stay under 235.5. Charlotte versus Cleveland gives us Cleveland laying 11.5 with Charlotte catching 11, and this is a spot where Cleveland's defensive control usually defines the game more than offensive bursts. Charlotte tends to struggle generating consistent scoring when forced into half-court sets, but big numbers like this still come down to pace. With the total around 236.5, the market expects points, yet Cleveland often wins comfortably without pushing tempo late. I like Cleveland to cover the 11.5, and I like the game to stay under 236.5. Philadelphia versus Atlanta sets up with Atlanta catching 2.5 and Philadelphia laying 3, and this line reflects a slight trust edge toward Philadelphia's structure over 4 quarters. Atlanta can score in runs, but those stretches tend to be volatile, especially if the pace gets slowed in the middle quarters. With the total around 232.5, scoring expectations are moderate rather than explosive. I like Philadelphia to cover the 3, and I like the game to stay under 233. Milwaukee versus Brooklyn is priced tightly, with Milwaukee laying 1 and Brooklyn catching 1.5, and games like this often come down to late execution rather than overall firepower. Brooklyn tends to play better when the game slows and possessions become more deliberate, while Milwaukee usually needs cleaner transitions to separate. With the total sitting at 217, the market is already leaning slower, which makes points harder to come by. I like Brooklyn plus 1.5, and I like the game to stay under 218. Sacramento versus Minnesota features Minnesota laying 11.5 and Sacramento catching 12. And this number reflects confidence in Minnesota's ability to impose defensive pressure over long stretches. Sacramento can score, but when pace slows, efficiency drops, and Minnesota thrives in those grinded-out environments. With the total around 229.5, scoring should be controlled enough to keep the favorite in command. I like Minnesota to cover the 11.5, and I like the game to stay under 230. New Orleans versus Chicago comes in with Chicago laying 5 and New Orleans catching 6.5 depending on the shop, and this matchup leans toward Chicago's ability to control tempo at home. New Orleans often relies on rhythm, but when that's disrupted, scoring becomes streaky. With the total around 242.5, the number feels inflated given how both teams tend to operate in half-court stretches. I like Chicago to cover the 5, and I like the game to stay under 244. The Lakers versus Phoenix is close to a pick'em, with the Lakers laying 2 and Phoenix catching 2, and these tight spreads usually favor the team that executes more consistently late. Phoenix generally benefits when games stay composed and defensive assignments stay clean, while the Lakers can become more volatile possession to possession. With the total around 228.5, scoring should be steady without turning chaotic. I like Phoenix plus 2, and I like the game to stay under 230. Golden State versus Portland closes the slate with Golden State laying 4.5 and Portland catching 5.5. And this is a classic spot where the favorite is expected to control the game but not necessarily run away. Portland tends to stay competitive when the pace slows and the opponent doesn't press, and Golden State often shifts into cruise control once ahead. With the total around 235.5, the scoring expectation is moderate enough to support the dog. I like Portland plus 5.5, and I like the game to stay under 236. Now listen to me, those are the free picks, but the one game I am unloading on tonight, the game that's going to crush your bookie's soul, that's the VIP play of the day at wspicks.com. This is the nuke, the hammer, the max bet, the one play I've circled, the game that will bury your bookmaker 6 feet under. When it hits, and it will, your bookie is going to need a doctor, a lawyer, and maybe even a priest. If you want to ride with me on the biggest bet of the day, get to wspicks.com right now. For the recap, I'm rolling with Washington +9 and the under, Cleveland -11.5 and the under, Philadelphia -3 and the under, Brooklyn +1.5 and the under, Minnesota -11.5 and the under, Chicago -5 and the under, Phoenix +2 and the under, and Portland +5.5 with the under. This is Winning Sport Picks, where we don't just bet, we bury bookmakers. Smash that subscribe button, drop your favorite plays in the comments, and hammer that like button like you're hammering your bookie into the dirt. We're cashing, we're dominating, and tonight we're dancing on the grave of your bookmaker. Let's go!